Hello everyone, you're with Tanisha Ali of Tanisha's Locks, Beauty Tips and Potpourri. And today we're talking about the 20 tips for Sisterlock newbies. For those of you who are new to the Sisterlock community, there are some things that I feel would be helpful to you on your journey. Number one, this is very important. Really pay attention to your hair. Be a student of your hair, know how it performs, and observe it closely. If you do this, then you will be prepared to trust your intuition when it comes to what is best for your hair, down to whether or not you need to put oil in it. You'll receive a lot of conflicting advice. Everybody's hair is different. Keep that in mind. Number two, in the first few months of your lock install, what your loctician says is the gospel. Follow it very, 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 very closely. Do not veer from this. It helps to enrich your relationship with her initially, and then as well, you won't be blameworthy for anything that happens, which can save you money down in the long run. And until you know how your locks work with your hair specifically, which develops over time, the knowledge of that, it's best that you just do what you're told in the beginning. Keep in mind that the ultimate hair strengths and weaknesses that your hair has before you even get locks are still going to be a part of your hair identity. It's not going to change that much. All right. And what I mean by that is before I got my locks, I was coloring my hair a lot. I would do things chemically to my hair that my hair was able to withstand, and even now with the locks I'm still able to do that. I know that has to do with the overall health of my locks and the way that I've nurtured that, but I also know that my hair is not going to do a total about face just because I get these locks. So just keep that in mind. That will also help keep you from having a comparison envy and worrying about what other people's locks look like versus yours. Just keep in mind that your hair typically doesn't change that much. Number four, you want to avoid coloring in the beginning. I would say at least during the first few years, until you're sure that your hair is fully locked and your hair is growing into the pattern and you have established a certain sort of familiarity with what your hair does in the lock pattern, I would say to avoid the color. Know that if you do get color, it is going to make your hair feel a little drier, and it's going to change the texture and the level of softness of your lock. So keep that in mind. This next one, number five, is very, very important. Do it, do it, do it. I still do it now sometimes. Braid and band. I don't care what anybody tells you. If that's the one thing you had better do, especially if you have a softer curl pattern or something like in the 4A area, if you want to consider that soft, braid and band your hair, because it expands too much when you wash it, and it creates more bulging and matting and all this stuff that goes on that looks unsightly, and then you're going to have more slippage if you don't. So all these newbies who are out here with these locks who don't really braid and band their hair and they don't take the time, they're going to be sorry down the line. And you can look at their hair now and you can see what they're in for, even though they may not be conscious of it. It doesn't look the same. You need to braid and band your hair, protect your hair, and continue to do it until your locks are fully settled. And if they're thick and long like this, you will find that you'll even want to continue braiding and banding them at some point. Number six, be prepared for the frizz. You're going to have the frizz. You're going to always have the frizz. It's going to be more in the beginning, couple of few years, depending upon your texture of your hair and how long it takes to lock. But even now in this area, I still have a lot of frizz every now and then, because I still have hair that continues to grow here further down my my edge. I'll get more frizzing of little hair, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll just trim some of the frizz from around the front. I don't do that a lot, and I'll do it every now and then with the lock that looks really frizzy, and I've never suffered as a result of it. Am I recommending that you do it? Not necessarily, but just know that frizz is going to be something that you're going to have to encounter. Number seven, don't over manipulate your hair with a lot of styling. That's regardless of the length. I see a lot of people doing YouTube videos who manipulate their hair a lot in the beginning, and I'm saying to you, other than maybe putting a bobby pin up here, if you've got them really short and they look like they're all over the place and you want a little bit more control over it, do your best to resist the temptation during the first year or during the period where they haven't begun to really lock. During the budding period, don't manipulate your hair too much. Don't start trying to do curled styles, roll styles, and all of that type of stuff. Just know that, especially depending upon the texture of your hair, if your hair is really starting to shrink, it's got some flexibility in it, and as you're pulling that out to wrap it around a roller, it's going to have an effect that's not going to be the best thing for you. Number 8, don't over shampoo. Especially in the beginning, don't over shampoo. Make sure your scalp is clean, use essential oils, but don't feel like you have to over shampoo. Now, my girlfriend, Serena, who did the cleanse, 25-day cleanse, she washes her hair every single day. We have the same loctician consultant who told her not to wash her hair every day. She washes it every single day, and she can't help but wash it. And she washes her hair. So that's what works for her hair. Now, she's had her locks a lot longer than I have, and her hair is similar in texture and grows fast, but her length is more like this, and it's not as thick as mine, and I always considered her hair to be thicker than mine before getting locks. So visually, when you look at her hair, it looks fine, but I don't know if the daily washing over a 9 or 10 year period may have affected the strength and the integrity of the hair. Who knows? But I believe not to overwash, and I only say that because that's my frame of reference. My hair is like this, and I'm a person who doesn't wash much. So you do what's best for your hair. If your hair can take it, if your hair is feeling clean, that's why I say in number 1, observe your hair over time. Okay? Number 9, do not use heavy products on your hair. Regardless of what you use, always wash and rinse thoroughly. But don't put heavy pomades, creams, and things like that on your hair. It's just not necessary for the locks. Number 10, always shake your locks like this to get the lint out. I don't know if you can see it flying. I can see it flying, and I've been shaking already today. This is going to be a very effective way of trying to keep what can eventually look like residue and become a part of the residue out of your hair. Use oils that are very close to our own natural hair sebums, like hemp oil, jojoba oil especially. Those are very good oils, and they're not going to weigh your hair down, and they're very close to what your body already naturally produces. Number 11, use the Sisterlock starter shampoo in the beginning. Okay? In the beginning. In the beginning, there was light. Use it in the beginning. And doesn't matter what anybody says, it does roughen the hair up. It looks like something you could have made in your kitchen in the middle of the night while you were sleepwalking. Just use it for the first few months. It's going to help the hair do what it's supposed to do, and then you at least have the experience, and you can't be accused later by your loctician or anyone else for not having used it. It's the type of thing that makes your hair feel kind of rough, and you get that when you're using it, but you understand why. You can always begin to shift to something else later on, but just use it in the beginning. I think it's going to be helpful. 12, if you have issues with your locks early on, communicate that to your loctician. Don't wait. The longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to correct the situation, and the less options you'll actually have, and the less willing your loctician is going to be to make those repairs for you, or to even have a discussion, because it becomes more work involved. If after your first retightening you go home, and prior to between that time and the next one you start seeing some things, go ahead and bring it to her attention and insist that those things be addressed during the next appointment, albeit very strategically and tactfully. Make sure you do that. Next, number 13, follow your retightening schedule, especially in the beginning. Now, you all know very well that I have a retightening schedule that's usually more or less at about 10 weeks on average. That works very well for me. It works very well for me. My consultants have not complained about it. But in the beginning, I remember skipping an 8-week and pushing it to 10 weeks, and it messed my locks up around the front. I had big bumps in them because the hair started to lock. So in the beginning, be very consistent about your retightening schedule and don't veer too much from that. Number 14, be prepared to look like a plucked chicken for the first, say, year, almost about, and be okay with that. We look like that at each retightening, but when you first have your locks installed, you look like that pretty much every day. And you look like that for many months. So just begin to become a little comfortable with that and be patient with the process. Next, 15, be prepared for a lot of shrinkage. Regardless of the length that you start with, it's not going to look that length again for many, 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 many months, and for some of us, some years. My hair was long when I started, and it continued to inch up. And the curlies were so cute, the whole lock curled. The part that began to open on the ends and the other part, and it was so cute, and I thought it was going to stay like that, and it continued to inch up, and then they started to bust out of the lock and do all kinds of crazy things, and I hated it. It was very difficult for me to get used to that. So just understand that there's going to be shrinkage. Be patient for whatever it does, and don't expect to be able to see much growth in the beginning, because much of the growth that you see will still be shrinking, and that is okay. Number 16, limit swimming in the beginning. And if you do decide to venture to swim, definitely braid and band, but try to limit the swimming. For those of you who swim regularly on a regular basis, you're going to have to be braiding and banding quite often, and probably smaller sections as well. But you want to limit that as much as possible, because your hair is doing all sorts of things at that time, and it needs more rest. It needs to be in a more restful state than anything else. If you work out a lot, you don't want to be lured into still washing your hair too much. If you sweat a lot, see what you can do with sort of patting some of the sweat out of this area. And also using a light watered down essential oil spray that has antifungal, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory sorts of properties to actually clean your hair, clean the scalp. See if you can't do that and alternate that with actual full washings. That can save your hair in the long run and keep it from drying out as much. And then number 18, don't be afraid to try your hand at repairing things that may slip, or kind of try your patience. I did that throughout. Initially I was very scared because I was told, and I think I just somehow had it in my head, maybe through videos or whatever, that the locks that I did were not going to look like the other locks, and I felt I would mess up. But I ended up being less satisfied with the things I was seeing, and I was willing to take the risk. Don't be afraid if something is slipping up here in an edge to just try to fix it or plait it or tighten it up. I mean, you can watch the videos and you see how easy it is to follow a counterclockwise pattern or a clockwise pattern at 4 points or 3 points. Just experiment with it, because it's not going to be that big a deal, and eventually when they all dread, they're going to look alike anyway. And what are you really going to notice when you have a few hundred, several hundred of these things? It's not going to be that big a deal. But if you still feel a little bit shy of doing that, focus that on a particular area of your hair, so that over time you can compare what you do to, what you might do to one area to what you might do, or what you're not touching in another area, and it'll help you to see, wow, they look alike. Or this is what happened when I tried to open up the end and get that cotton out and plait it back down, and this is what happened when I opened up the end to get the cotton out, but I actually did an interlocking from the bottom up, and then I closed the hole with a needle. This is what that one looks like. So just be willing to experiment some and be courageous, because you're going to have a lot of little things that are going to happen with your locks that your loctician is not going to be able to solve, because she won't be there, nor will she be willing to solve, because you're going to have so many variations of different things that are going to happen, and different personalities that your locks will take on, that nobody's going to sit there and do that thing with you that you do when you look at them and you see the imperfections and the ways that you want them to look. So just venture out and try a few things, and don't be afraid to do that. I hope this video helped you. Leave some comments in the description, and if you enjoyed watching the video, Check out my channel at Butterfly Transformations and Affinity and my channel at High Vibes. We're just starting that channel. We are both healers and in the coaching profession, and we're also certified in some other areas as well. But so is not to have, well, anyway, we work with women and we enrich the lives of people through the healing arts. So that channel is High Vibes. I'm Tanisha Ali with Tanisia's Locks, Beauty Tips, and Potpourri, and I sure hope that you will continue to come and visit the channel and that you found something that you could connect with that made sense, that may make your journey just a little bit more pleasurable. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I hope that you're being very grateful for all of the wonderful things that this gift of life has brought you, and go forth and be prosperous and abundant.